Welcome to the Immigrant Finance Podcast, a show dedicated to everything money, online business, and immigration, because immigrant families deserve to build generational wealth too. I'm your host, Adina, social entrepreneur, an immigration attorney, and financial educator and coach for immigrant families. I created the Immigrant Finance platform with my husband, Mauricio, who immigrated to the U.S. 8 years ago after we struggled through the whole process of trying to figure out finances as an immigrant family alone. We wanted to share what we learned about building wealth with others along the way and created the Immigrant Finance School Group Coaching Program, where we teach immigrants and their families like you how to manage their money, get started investing, and build online businesses in just weeks, all with group accountability and support. Our clients have been able to get started investing and develop lifelong plans to build generational wealth regardless of their immigration status, actually launched an online business they've been dreaming of starting for years, bring in enough income to leave a job with a shitty boss, and book up their calendar for the rest of the month just after announcing their new coaching business. I'm coming to you with a new show several times a week with stories about online business lessons, money and mindset insights, and guest interviews to help you become financially empowered. Each episode will switch between personal finance and online business topics. Now let's get to this week's episode.
Welcome, everybody. Adina, I think we'll probably take questions at the end.
Okay.
So it doesn't get interrupted just because the flow is easier where you just keep going. So guys, you can just drop your questions if you have any questions while this is going. When I am talking, you can take note of the questions in case it scrolls past and we can't find it. And when you're talking, I'll take note of the questions just so we can
Sounds
keep
good.
up with what's happening. Yeah. So let's do the introduction.
Yeah, it sounds good. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Okay, guys. So, like we announced, we're talking about doing business in the digital age. I have been saying to people, to my clients, I said, the pandemic gave us pushed us forward by 1 decade. People who didn't care for Zoom, for online meetings, for online transactions, they had to adjust because, and I think that's the way progress is usually made. Before there is a leap, before anytime there's going to be a leap, a major shift, something drastic has to happen. Otherwise, by nature, human beings, we are content to just lie around. We want change. We don't want things to transform. We want gentle change, right? We want things to happen in a bit. But suddenly this pandemic comes and you can't go out. You can't see your loved ones. Grandparents, 100-year-old men and women are doing Zoom calls and FaceTime.
Yeah.
They never needed that. But yeah, with the advent of the pandemic and the situation surrounding it, the global impact, that I believe drastically changed the digital game for business owners.
Absolutely.
Or for anybody who wants to do business. And today, because for both of us, maybe I should introduce myself. I know with people who don't know.
It was a good intro to the topic.
My name is Fijeh Aadum. I am the founder and the coordinator at Immigrants Thrive. And our passion, our goal is to help first and second generation immigrants especially to find financial freedom, to build generational wealth by, doing business, personal finance, all the tools that you need to attain that. Because we have seen that, I've seen for a few years, especially here in North America, that first and second generation immigrants, we come with some disadvantages because you're new, there's something to having a family line. So we've all left lives behind. So that is the passion behind Immigrants Thrive, to help immigrants thrive in North America. Now let's now introduce herself, Adina, before.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Adina Applebaum, and I am the co-creator of Immigrant Finance, which I created with my husband, Mauricio. I am an immigration lawyer by day, and I'm not an immigrant myself. I am the great-granddaughter of Jewish refugees, and my husband Mauricio is an immigrant from Ecuador. He came about 8 years ago. And we started our platform first with a blog to share what we were learning when we were trying to figure out the financial system when he immigrated here. And it was really scary and overwhelming for us to figure out basic things like whether he could have a bank account or a credit card, invest, all those things. And we've grown it since then. Now we have group coaching programs on personal finance and online business. And we have a podcast and all that. We have a Facebook group. And we have a similar mission as Immigrants Thrive of wanting to see, I think, more immigrants who are starting online businesses and taking control of their finances and being financially empowered. And we really believe that online business is the best way to be doing that these days, which we'll talk about more today.
Awesome. Yeah. When I found Adina, I said it's like having a twin.
Totally.
Like, that's your cool. I was like, oh wow, this is awesome. Yeah, and I'll see the great work you guys do.
Likewise.
Yeah, back to our topic. Like I said, it's about doing business in a digital age, and I was thinking of how the pandemic has given us this bomb, this 10-year or more bomb towards digital lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
I realized that 3 years ago, nobody would have believed that you can do business outside of your physical place of business for 12 months and you'll be fine. And you also see that there are some businesses, major businesses, that are even considering letting their staff work from home for good.
Yeah.
Or maybe doing 2 or 3 days a week. Yeah, things have changed, and I think the major challenge with digital business has been, and for some people it's still the case, people are reluctant, so people don't really trust digital things. They're like, there are times there are people who are still uncomfortable putting their cards in online to make payments and all that. But I think with the pandemic and everything, we all had to adjust. We all learned that the times are changing and you need to flow with it.
Totally.
So yeah, why I think this topic is really key for our audience and for the people listening is because when change happens like this, you either go with the flow or you're left behind, and you don't want to be left behind. Yeah. And for me, the exciting thing about doing business in a digital age is that there's so many opportunities. It removes so many challenges that were holding you back, right? I started Immigrants Thrive during the pandemic. I think I shared with you on your podcast why I started. I lost a very dear friend.
Yeah.
And she's an immigrant first generation immigrant who had really toiled 10 years in the States, was just getting settled, a citizen. And he just died. And he had been asking me for help with certain things. He's been here much longer than I have been here, but he just, because when we met and we connected, we met in an Uber, he was driving the Uber. He just said, oh, you know so many things about this. I said, yes, this is what I did as a financial advisor before in London. And he said to me, I really need your help, I really need you to guide me, to show me. I'm like, don't worry, I'll do it. But of course, I was settling down 3 children. At the time, my husband was barely here. My husband would spend a couple of months here, go back to Nigeria because his business is in Nigeria. And I said, okay, I'll get to you. And that was, I think, in February or March was the last time I saw him. And in June, the next I heard from him was dead. Pandemic came, so we couldn't really communicate, right? And I just felt so bad because I was like, maybe I could have really been of more help to this person. So why I'm going back to this story is because for us immigrants, there are specific peculiar challenges that we face that others don't. And like I always say to people, if you must thrive in North America, you must have one of 2 things. Either you have a lot of cash to pair on with, or you have knowledge. You know what is obtainable. You either have a lot of knowledge or you have a lot of money. If you don't have both, things are really going to be hard on you, right? So the know-how, to know the opportunities that are available, it's such an important thing. And with people doing online courses, YouTube, podcasts, there's so much knowledge out there. Yeah. So much information. So the digital age is good, it's great, it's a great time to do business, but it's also a very challenging time to get people's attention because there's so much noise. There's so much happening. I mean, back in the day when Instagram started, I could go on Instagram and I'll really engage with people. I would look through, I would read. But now there's so much ads, and so everybody's attention has been shortened by the digital age. Mm-hmm. So it's like a two-edged sword, right? It's good, but it is challenging. Yeah. But the aspect I would like to talk to in my introductory part is, if you're going to be doing business in a digital age, what are the challenges for immigrants or anybody else? Hi, Canadian Immigrant Story. Thank you for joining. Mm-hmm. So what are the challenges? What are the peculiarities? Why, if it's an advantage, why are people not taking advantage of it? Mm. If it's a challenge, then how do we overcome these challenges? Yeah. And I'll mention two areas before I hand over to Adina. First thing is this: the opportunities in a digital age are limitless. There are so many opportunities. But then why are we, especially our community, still so limited and so hung up on doing only paid labor? Mm. And this is not me beating up on paid labor, because I think paid labor is great, it's awesome, it's an opportunity, especially for people who came to look for greener pastures. Just getting in for the minimum wage is such a privilege. And I applaud you if you're working. I'm not saying people should get out of their jobs. I'm just saying that I've come to understand that the key purpose for a paid employment is to sponsor your vision. Mm. So if you are currently employed, you're doing something for which you're getting paid, awesome. But very likely, you still have something else you would want to do. That, if, for example, when I have consulting sessions with people, I ask them 3 questions. The first question I ask them is, if you had all the money you needed in the world, you're fine. You don't need to work to eat. You don't need to work to pay the bills. What would you be doing? Mm-hmm. What would you opt to do? Then I also ask them second, they say, if the doctor said to you, in the doctor's office, and he said to you, oh, I have bad news for you. You have only 3 days to live. Go put your house in order. Say goodbye to your loved ones. This is the end. If you had that encounter, what would you use those 72 hours to do? So for people who think, oh, I really don't know what's important to me, that's one way they find out what's important to them, because, this is it, Yeah. And the third question I ask people is, if you got an opportunity, if you got what's the word? If you sold everything you have today, everything, house, job, if you have a business, if you sold the business, the goodwill, everything, and what you gave, maybe the funds you get for it is put in your hands, and what would you be left with? Will you have anything in your hands, or will your debtor still be knocking? What will the situation be? That's to say, how would you know it? That's to tell you what your net worth is. Because it's when you dispose of everything. What's the financial value of your life? What are you left with? So I start with those 3 questions. And the essence of the first 2, for me, is because more often than not, all of us, including me, I do my paid job because I need to get the bills paid. I didn't start my paid job necessarily because, I'd rather spend more time with my children. There are things I would rather do. I need to get the bills paid. But if I had all the money I wanted in the world, what would I be doing? I'll probably be doing Immigrants Thrive, right? Because for me, it's not necessarily about the money. There are things I would do. So that is important. That's a key pointer to you. So the reason I say this is because I believe that the essence of your job is great, but I believe the purpose of your job is to fund your vision, is for you to be able to have the resources, to get the experience, because working in a corporate environment or working for somebody else will give you certain advantages you don't have. So if you go into a job with the mindset of, oh, thank God, this is at least if I do this for 10 years, I could probably buy a house. I can, and you're listing all you could do, put your children through school. That's great, but you're limiting the purpose of the job. That is what I believe. And especially for immigrants, first and second generation immigrants, you come with, maybe you've left businesses, other opportunities back home. So there's this mindset that just makes you believe, I don't know, for some reason, that it's like they can't think that they have the same privileges as people who have been here. You just feel disadvantaged, like, okay, those that have been here, they can take risks, but not me. What I need to do is get established. Go, what courses are people looking for? Oh, computer engineering or nursing. So you're thinking, I need to do something to find my feet, to establish myself. So you see that over time, a lot of immigrants don't take what they call risks of starting their own business. Okay, and I think it's a mindset limitation. It's a mindset that has just, okay, we are good with paid employment. Even people who were formerly employed, employers of labor in their country, they would come here and you see that they're literally satisfied working, just doing a paid job in and they're not even thinking. And I think it's, of course, there's this, the jarring impact of change of environment, all of those things matter. But it's a mindset that I think we need to deal with. The second thing is because people think that working for yourself is too complicated. How am I going to go to the state office to get my company registered? I need to get an EIN. So it's overwhelming. And what I have to say to that is, you can start without the overwhelm.
Absolutely.
You can start as a sole proprietor.
Exactly.
Like that. And if there is something the US and Canada has gotten right, is this. They've gotten the process. They have a system that encourages doing your own business. That's one thing that developing countries still lack. So the rewards you get for running your business, it is worth it. And the good news is, don't worry about the LLC. Don't worry about the EIN. You can start as a sole proprietor. And you'd even realize that there's so many advantages enjoyed by sole proprietors. So it's a great thing. Don't think your business is not authentic until you've registered it. No. It's a sole proprietor. I'm sitting in my home office right now. And I have an LLC, which is a partnership. I have more tax deductions from what I'm doing here than I can from my partnership LLC. So let's simplify the process. Don't overthink it. Don't expect too much. Don't just leave the LLC, the EIN. You'll probably get there, but start small. Start with what you have, where you are at, and what you have in your hands. Okay. The third thing I would like to say is, I probably have time to expand on this later, but it's just in summary. The third thing I would say is your ability to study your environment. If you're going to move from being an employee to being self-employed, then you need to open your eyes. You need to study the trends. You need to see what is happening. The best business ideas came from people who were able to look around and say, what difference can I make? Okay. Because if you just look and say, what are people doing? Oh, people are podcasting, you can go and start your own podcast. What are people doing? People are doing YouTube channels, go and start, what are people doing? People are doing drop shipping. You can just do that. But if you're someone that has the capacity to take your time and think back, what's happening in this environment? How can I take advantage of what's happening? Then you probably think, wow, people are really podcasting. 2 years ago, there were less than 200,000 podcasts. Today, there's 1 million. What can I do to serve the community?
Wow.
So rather than starting your own podcast, guys, okay, let me learn to edit podcasts. And you become a podcast editor, you're working for somebody. Or maybe it's you to learn to do videos. Or maybe it's just people are building communities now. Everybody knows that if the money is in the list, right? Maybe all you need to do is just say, okay, there are so many communities on Facebook. How about I become your manager? I manage the community for you. So the people that will thrive, I think, in this digital age are those that have the capacity to study their environment. You can look at what's happening, you can look at what's trending, and then from what's happening, rather than just joining the rush, let's go drop shipping, that's what's happening. You can start an ad agency to help out a drop shipper. So those are 3 areas that if an immigrant or anybody wants to move from this employed situation to starting your own business, and that doesn't mean leaving your paid jobs, by the way. It could be just a side, something you're doing alongside. You need to have those three things. Your mindset is working. Your mindset is having a shift. You're shifting your mindset from a fixed mindset that like, oh, this is my situation, this is my condition, this is the best I can do, to a growth mindset that tells you that I can change this, I can do something about this. And then you also know that you don't have to overcomplicate this matter. Simplify it. It can start very simple. And thirdly, open your eyes, open your mind, study your environment. That is where the best ideas come from. Over to you, Adina.
That was brilliant. You truly are my soul sister, because I feel like so much of what you said, I completely agree with. Like, I agree with everything, and I talk about these things too all the time. I maybe just have a slightly different way of describing it, that maybe would be helpful. But I mean, there's so many things you said I want to like highlight that are really important. So one theme you've talked about is seeing the opportunities. And let's talk about that for a second, because right now what's going on with this huge economic shift where everything is moving online in this digital age, we are seeing, like in other huge economic shifts that have happened, people suffering and people gaining. And there are people who are making major wealth grabs right now during this time of crisis, despite the many people suffering. And the people who are doing that, it's because they've trained their minds to see problems and think of solutions instead of just seeing problems. And I think you talked about that exactly. But I talk about it in terms of problems and solutions. And one example is there's this guy, I forget his name, but he had this huge billion-dollar business doing live events for big, business speakers and all that, making tons and tons of money. And with COVID, obviously that dried up because there's no more live events. So his business completely crashed. He was in the red and lost tons and tons of money. And instead of like freaking out and going into victim mode, this guy took a moment, looked at what's going on, like you said, looked and observed what, I forget the words you used. Anyway. Looked at the environment, and he said, all the events are on Zoom. So I'm going to create the best way ever to make a virtual experience that feels live. And so he created in these big like stadiums and event spaces where he was having this billion dollar business. He invented this thing where it feels like you're in person with like lots of little screens that apparently they use these in these big corporations. You've seen it where there's lots of little screens and the people show and all that. And now he's got an incredibly successful business that making all this money. All these corporations are like, licensing it or whatever. And so this is an example of like seeing a problem and looking for an opportunity. And that's fundamentally the shift that needs to happen to go from the employee to a business owner. And I strongly believe immigrants are well poised to do this because immigrants have always been the ones innovating. They've always been the ones building the new parts of the economy and making new initiatives. I mean, even look at the COVID vaccine. The Moderna vaccine was created by immigrants, right? Like they are saving people's lives. And this has always been happening. There's a reason that in the Fortune 500 companies, the top 500 companies in the US, more than half have been created by immigrants or children of immigrants. It's like if you're an immigrant, you know what it's like to sacrifice, you know what it's like to go outside your comfort zone, to go somewhere completely new, to have to learn a new language, a new culture. And so that alone trains your brain to think differently and have different perspectives and question things and see how things could be different, right? So anyone who's watching, if you're an immigrant or family member of an immigrant and you are in touch with that perspective, like you already have an advantage actually in this space and in leading in this new digital age. It's just about seeing those opportunities. And I wanted to talk about too, like your point of how anyone can do this. And it's like, don't just go for the low hanging fruit, the easy thing of drop shipping or whatever. e-commerce thing. Like, think about what you are really uniquely suited to do, what you're passionate about, as Fijeh was describing, because I really believe that every person has something very unique to offer that no one else can, based on their life experience, and based on their unique perspective. And if you can offer something that's going to help someone and help change their life, that is going to be valuable, and money will flow from that. So think about what you can create in this space to help people, in a way that is not being done, or to add a little bit of a different angle based on your unique perspective. Maybe it's for a new audience. You don't have to recreate the wheel and do something completely new, but just getting started and sharing your experience to help others, and that will create value. Yeah. So I want you to share, if you don't mind, a little bit about your experience, like with being an immigrant and creating an online business, because you did it pretty quickly. How has it been, the experience for you?
Yeah. So for me, it's been exciting, and moving here was hard for me, because before I would visit, and I used to tell my husband, I said, US is a place to visit, not to live. Because I'm here and see all these things about shooting in schools, in malls. I'm like, what kind of a crazy place is this? Back home in Nigeria, if there was a crime, there's a purpose for the crime. Maybe the person is stealing to eat. They are trying to make money. The crime seems to have purpose. When someone just enters a grocery store, or a little child in school, a teenager just takes the gun and shoots his colleagues, I used to think this is a crazy environment. I never.
It is. It's totally crazy.
Yeah. So, because I'm like, how do you deal with that kind of crime?
Yeah.
So it was a very, so the decision to move here was really daunting. But before then, my husband already had a business he was running here, so it was like the next thing. So it was really challenging. And I thought, the first time I got here, I didn't let my children go to the supermarkets with me. They wouldn't go to the store. I had them down. They literally go to school, and I'll pick them. I didn't want them going anywhere, because I'll see shooting in this mall. And
oh, so my God. I know.
I had that for a long time. But then getting here, I know I run businesses in Nigeria, and I know the kind of struggles it is. I see how the government was doing next to nothing to help small businesses. This was like they would literally frustrate you out of business. My husband had this company where we would work for the government, and you take a loan, execute a contract for the government, and you have to pay back the loan before the government thinks of paying you, but you don't even get paid at all. So it was such a frustrating environment. Yeah. So when I got here, I started studying the laws, the opportunities. I was like, wow, you mean this is why this is called the land of opportunity? Because if there's something they've got right, is the encouragement, the opportunities they've made for small businesses in America.
Absolutely. The whole system is designed for it.
It is designed.
Yeah.
So yeah, with that, I established, in the last year, I've been in this country for about 2 years and a few months. I established 3 businesses.
3? No, I didn't know that. I'm not surprised at all. You're such an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and that's why I'm so passionate about teaching people, especially regular, everyday people like me. Like, you don't need any extraordinary skill. You can turn anything, absolutely anything, into a business. I'll tell you one of my experiences.
Yeah.
When I came, someone said to me, "Oh, the best thing to do is go to nursing. Oh, you're so intelligent. Go study nursing. You make so much money." So I said, "Okay, let me see." I went to school. After 2 weeks, I was like, "Nah." But then I met so many people who were trying to be nurses, and they were starting to do their CNA training. Then, so I say to them, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm doing this. I'm doing that." And most of them were doing caregiver jobs. So I said, "Okay, so how do you get the jobs?" And they told me. So I thought to myself, what can I do about this? So I set up an agency. And I'll use online. I didn't even go to the companies. I'll go online, look for people who are looking for caregivers.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and
that's
so
amazing.
I had a care agency where I would connect people. I would put in these applications, what are you looking for? And then I would just
you're the connector. Yeah, that's providing a solution to a problem.
Because I had so many people around me, new immigrants who were looking for work.
Yeah.
Some of them did not have social securities, they had ITIN.
Mm-hmm.
And in Chicago, you can work with an ITIN. So I was saying to them, some didn't even have ITIN. They're like, what do we do? I'm like, you don't have to work illegally. Here, go apply for an ITIN. I will get you a job. So with that, I was able to do that network, and I was running a home business. I was writing off my home space for doing the business. I was paying my son, who was helping me fill in some documents. Those are all payments that the government would give back to me, right? So I was running a successful home-based business just from seeing that challenge, right? So the thing is, people think you need to have, when people think of starting a business, they think, oh, let me buy a course, get a training, get this new skill. There are things you can do that doesn't need one additional skill.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least maybe with the skills you already have.
Yeah.
So opportunities. The problem is we are working with our eyes closed. We are not looking. If you look, you will see.
Yeah.
People, I got some people have been here 6-7 years. I was getting jobs for them. I'm like, can't you just see? I will say something, just go to the website. They'll pay you more if you go directly. Like, oh, well, and I was like, I said, okay, well, if you're ready to do it, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Wow.
My experience has been that there's money everywhere. And what I realized is mindset is a major issue, because when you get into this country, the kind of people you meet, the advice they give you really matters. People say, oh, go study nursing, go do this. Immigrants have a story they tell themselves, right? And I say to people, for example, during the gold rush, some people said that it wasn't the gold diggers that were making the most money. It was those selling shovels. So, yeah, it's good to listen, but why don't you just go the extra length after listening? Why don't you look for the opportunity in what has been said? Okay, everybody's studying into nurses, everybody doing CNN. Why don't you look for the opportunity in what has been said? And it's so easy. I'm a Christian, and I want to share this story from the Bible. It's where Moses encountered God in the wilderness, and he was a timid guy. He was stammering, he couldn't really talk. And the story goes that God asked him, what is it? Moses was afraid, oh, don't send me back to Egypt. Because he committed offenses, he ran away, he had killed somebody. But God said to him, what do you have in your hands? For me, that's so powerful, because I believe that nature, the universe, has orchestrated our lives in such a way that the experiences you had, good or bad, the things you've learned, no, all of those things have worked together and brought you to a place where you can put them together to learn something. There's a young man that really inspires me. He's on YouTube. He told a story of being laid off in 2008 during the market downturn. He's an architect. He was laid off. And so because he was laid off, he had to look for what to do. He wrote some kind of exam, architecture exam. He failed. And then he wrote again and passed. And so when he did, he said, oh, this is why I failed. He put together an ebook. And today that ebook sold over $200,000.
Wow.
That's just that ebook. He has done so many other things. So can you imagine that from what looked like a bad luck of losing his job, what looks like terrible luck of failing an exam, and then later passing it? He started teaching people to pass the exam. And 2008, this is 13 or more years later, he's still making money off of that ebook. So don't write off your experiences. Don't write off your challenges. Don't write off what appears to be problems. Those things could be the universe just working to ensure, oh, you need this experience. Oh, you failed it, you need to know it better. you can turn anything to cash today. And that is, when I listen to these stories, it really inspires me. And so I say to myself, well, when I got here, my husband wasn't here, he was so worried. Oh, how will you manage? I said, don't worry, we'll be fine. And yes, we were fine, because my creativity was pushed like, what can you do? I've learned, because I'm a social entrepreneur, I've learned over time that if I won't be happy. There's no kind of money that will make me happy except I'm making a difference. So I've learned to make a difference and also turn it into financial benefits, because that's what gives me joy, right? So I've learned to merge those two questions I talked about, if you had all the money you need, what would you do? And if you had only a few days to live, what would you do? So I've learned to make it such a way that, like, for the home care business, I'm giving people opportunities. There are people that had been going around doing nothing, even doing illegal things just to get work. And now I'm showing them you can do this legally. I'm helping them, and I'm getting paid for that. I mean, what can be better than that?
Yeah.
So life, I mean, they say that gives you lemons, make lemonade, right? So don't throw away your challenges. Don't take them for granted. A lot of them will work out for your good. The experiences you will need maybe in the next phase of your journey.
I totally agree. I think the best online businesses out there are ones that are based on people's pain points. So they're based around these struggles you're talking about, the failures that you've been through that have been really hard, and what you've learned, and being able to share that with people once you're on the other side, whether you made it through successfully and you can share with people how you did that, or if it was a disaster and you weren't successful, but going through it, you know what you could have done differently, and you want to help other people save time and have it easier. And when you're helping people save time or money or having less pain, like that leads to money. That's creating value. It's as simple as that. And the mindset stuff you've been hitting on is so important. Like the more I learn about business, the more I learn that is really quite 99% about mindset. And particularly we were talking about earlier with this challenge of immigrants needing to make that transition from employee to business owner and seeing themselves that way. So much of it is about empowerment and self-worth. I mean, for all of us as humans, regardless of your situation, being able to see your struggles as something that you can provide value with it comes down to like owning your experiences and believing that you have value and sharing that value with people. And with immigrants, I mean, so there's this whole thing with like the immigration legal system that puts people in a place where they feel like maybe, you may feel like you're not meant to be here or welcomed, or if you don't have status, that you're not quote unquote legal, but all of this is made up. The entire immigration legal system is made up like very recently, a few decades ago. I mean, when my great grandparents came as refugees to Ellis Island, there was no immigration law system. I mean, if it was today, they would be called undocumented. It would be called illegal. I don't like to use that term. But it just happens to be when they came, those laws weren't put in place yet, right? But like if you're coming more recently or your family members came and you have this narrative from this powerful legal system telling you don't belong, or that like you have to take extra steps to be worthy of being here, or you can only be here temporarily, or you can have a work permit, but you don't get to have all the full rights of a citizen, or or it can be taken away at any moment. Like that fucks with your head, right? And it's all made up. And I love hearing your story and the stories of other recent immigrants who like can see past that, and like you have such a strong sense of self-worth, and none of that matters. Like it's about you value yourself, you have self-worth, and so the value you can provide. And that's really what business is all about. And to make that transition from being an employee, where as an employee you're building someone else's business, even if it's at a nonprofit, you're not in control of the mission. Even if the nonprofit has the best mission, most likely the work is being dictated by the priorities of the funders, and there's all kinds of corruption in that, as you know. We've talked about this with nonprofits and social entrepreneurship and all that. So if you want to be building your own thing and helping people in the way that you are meant to help, that you are put on this earth to help people, you do need to, or at least one way to do it is by being a business owner and building your own thing. And it takes that choice of, seeing outside the limitations of what the immigration system has told you, seeing outside the limitations of what the financial system has told you for your, if you're low income, or you didn't grow up a lot of money, or you're surrounded by people who don't have a lot of financial options. Like that whole system's made up too. Money's also made up. I know I'm getting out there, but this is what the mindset stuff is. Like, money was made up by humans thousands of years ago as a symbol of value. That's it. It started off with trading seashells. It's just to show exchange of value. And so we have all these negative stories about money. And that's something I want to touch on too, because a lot of people I talk to in our community, they want to have an online business, but they have a lot of fears and insecurities with admitting they want to make money, right? Because we have all these negative stories from society and conditioning that, you know, if you want money or if you want to be financially strong, that you're greedy or you're selfish or you're bad, right? And that really holds people back from owning their power, right? When it's just about sharing value, that's it, and helping people. And when you provide value, like there is abundance that flows from that, right? Yeah, talk to me more about the abundance stuff, because you were starting to hit on on that, I feel like.
Yeah, so I was just sharing with, I can't remember the occasion or the reason. Okay, a second friend of mine, he's launching a business really soon. A fantastic brand. He's the first generation immigrant, but he's been here for a while, maybe 17 years. But he's launching this brand that is going to be competing with, you know, top brands. And I was just telling him how proud I was of the things he was doing. And the question asked me, I said, how did you even think to dare this? Because it's even for me that has that absolute business minded, it's still so huge to me. He's doing this brand of watches, leather materials. The quality, oh my God, it would compete with any designer.
Wow.
On that is selling on what's that street on New York? I mean, he would compete with any designer in this world. His watches, everything. So I was like, how did you even think it? Like, how did your mind even? I mean, what's the confidence you have that people would buy? You know, but there really is a mindset. I started a series in my podcast this week on financial therapy. And I was saying to people, there's a formula I love to share. No matter what I talk about, I can share this formula because it's just so important. And I say to people, a lot of the time, people struggle with breaking a habit. Some people wonder why they think in a certain way, right? Like, oh, I want to do something differently. I want to stop spending all the time. I want to stop having the need to buy new things every time. And they don't know what the root of it is. And I said, like I'm teaching in this series in the podcast, I said to them, is based on your belief. And a lot of the beliefs we have are limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
Because they limit what we can think, right? And the thing is, I want you to get comfortable with dealing with beliefs because it's not your fault. The beliefs you have are not your fault. They're a function of your environment.
Yeah.
You cannot think abundance if your beliefs are, like you were saying, some people believe that making money can make you a bad person. I was on I guess on the podcast and I was telling them, I said, I've come to realize that wealthy people, successful people, people who are going to do well are very likely to be misunderstood. Because I don't even consider myself wealthy yet, but yet I'm already being misunderstood. So if I'm anywhere, I'm quite thinking, oh, people like Bloomberg, they're so greedy, they're so selfish. I don't take that message in anymore. I just make excuses for them. I say, oh, there must be a reason why they are thinking he's selfish. I'm not defending them, but I give excuses because I realize that people misunderstand wealthy people. And for some people, it's their limiting beliefs that have made them equate wealth, extreme wealth, with greed. And you cannot attract what you don't like. But want to attract wealth. So, I mean, why should I be angry with the wealthy people?
Yeah.
So whatever person, I just make excuse. I think, oh, there must be something he did. I think, oh, but he's also doing good. So if you don't get to a place where you're comfortable with what you're looking for, you won't attract it. That abundance won't come. Get comfortable with abundance. Let's not make excuses for why there has to be lack. There has to be barely enough.
Yeah.
Because you only attract what you want, right? What you're looking forward to. So the formula I was talking about is this. Your belief will determine your thoughts.
100%.
Your thoughts will determine your behavior. Your behavior will determine your action. And your action will determine your results. People struggle to see change, to change their habits, to change their actions, because they are not starting from the source of the problem. The source is those limiting beliefs. Deep down, what do you really believe?
Yeah.
Do you believe you deserve abundance? Do you believe it's even possible for you to retire at 50 and maybe move to Panama and just live at the beach? You sincerely believe it, or you're like, no. Some people believe they've not earned it, they've not worked hard enough, so it's not for people like us, or it's not because of my background, I don't qualify. People believe so many crazy things.
Yeah.
And the thing about belief is, first of all, it's not your fault.
Right.
But secondly, you can change it. Feel free to change it.
You can change it, and it's hard work to change it, but you can. It takes a lot of intention.
Yeah, so intentionally do it. I mean, the human mind is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
What I do is, I realize that the only way you can change your limiting belief is come face to face with it, acknowledge it. You need to look inwards, understand yourself, then acknowledge, oh, I believe this. This is why this is happening.
Yeah.
And then I turn my limiting beliefs to affirmations. I turn it on its head. I flip it back, and I start to say it to myself consciously. So I say, I do, I try to think the opposite. And eventually, my mind will obey me.
Yeah.
So if you come face to face with a limiting belief, and you can turn that switch, your thoughts, your action, your behavior, your results will definitely become different. And the only way to do this is if you've developed a growth mindset where you believe everything is in your hand. You know, the problem is some people don't believe things are in their hand. They think it's outside of my control. That's the way I was raised. That's the way it works in my family. Oh, that's the way my mother ended. You know, so they believe that like everything that will bring change is an external factor. They don't take responsibility.
Yes.
And as long as you don't take responsibility and come to terms with it, that means you have a fixed mindset. You're not ready to grow because you're not responsible for growth. If you're not, then nothing changes. But if you take it, I'm like, yes, I know. I just came into this country. Yes, I know. You acknowledge all the challenges. But I have decided, I think, I can't remember who, but somebody said, the most powerful word in the world is, I have decided.
Absolutely. It's like, and that's the most important thing with being a business owner is being decisive and making decisions to believe, right? And I want to connect it back to what we're talking about with business in the digital age. For those of you just joining who are like, why are they talking about money mindset? Because I'm in different business circles, coaching and networks and stuff. And it's like 99% of the talk is on money mindset. And now I see why. But for a while I was like, why are they talking about this? We're supposed to be talking about business, right? So to connect, to connect it for people, because I remember being there. The reason we're talking about it is like we started off talking about how with online business in this digital age and the digital economy, there is really infinite opportunity. We're in a situation probably for the first time in humankind where there is infinite people to be potential clients and customers that you can reach all over the world without any barriers. We just went through this huge economic shift that was forced by COVID that you were describing in the beginning, where now people have been forced to get comfortable using Zoom and interacting online. And it's like everything is actually being set up to allow all of this abundance and success. But what holds us back is our beliefs. So that's why we're talking about money mindset, because it's like you can't see it if you aren't actively and intentionally changing the way that you think to be open to those opportunities and to see the solutions that are available for challenges that you can work on. And that's why with business owners, whether it's online, digital, or in person, so much of the work is a mental game and like getting control of what's going on between your two ears and having to do daily work. I don't know about you, but like the more I learn about this stuff, the more I have to really work on my brain and my thoughts, right? Because like I can go down spirals, right? And then I don't see the opportunities and the success stops, right? But so you have to always be actively learning to see those opportunities again and be in touch with that abundance, and then it flows.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so true. the thing is, it's so breaking a habit can be very challenging.
Yes. Oh,
And if you
yes.
don't change what you're doing, you cannot see a different result. But when people try to just break a habit, just, oh, I've been doing this, I want to stop it. If you don't, just like cutting a tree at the stump somewhere, just like, okay, it will grow because the roots are still deep down. When you're able to go deep down, go to the source, which is a belief, most of them are limited, something that you've grown up, something that has been part of you. It's even difficult sometimes to even know it's part of you because it's your own normal, right? That's why when in business circles they talk about mindset and mental, there are times that like, I just want to know the tangible things. Tell me the truth.
Yeah.
Until I came to understand that mindset really is a huge part of anything, you know.
Yeah.
The other thing I really want to talk about is this. Many people don't venture out. They don't think of starting a new business. They don't think of doing something different because they feel they're not able to, they're not competent, or they tried and they failed.
Mm-hmm.
And you did something, you tried to sell and it didn't work. And what I say to those people is this. It's unfair for anybody to expect you to be an expert at what you've not done before. In his book, Mastery, somebody Green wrote that book. He said people that are considered geniuses, people like Mozart, were not actually geniuses. What happened is that they have been practicing, they've been doing this for over 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you try to sell something, you try to build a business, and it failed, it's not an excuse to give up, or it's just someone who did it. No, the question is, how do we expect you to be an expert at what you haven't become a master at?
Mm-hmm.
So we need to give ourselves the latitude to say, I'm going to start this thing. And that's always say to people, simplify, start small. Because if you fail and you're small, it's easier to manage than if I came into a business and I invested 50,000 and failed. I may just shut down permanently, right? But see, when you simplify the process and you also start small, it makes it easier. But don't expect to be an expert yet. Give yourself time to grow. And that is why the idea of side hustles have taken the world by storm. Because before now, people thought that, oh, if I'm working and I'm going to start a business, I need to stop my work. But now you've learned that you can work and start to build until you get to a level where the business can sustain you. Mm-hmm. So don't be afraid to start small. Don't expect to be an expert. Anybody say that? Say, no, I'm not an expert. Just know that you need time. There is nothing, some people have debunked the myth of a genius. Excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sweetheart, I'm on the line.
Oh, you're
my daughter just screamed, Mommy.
Oh.
Yeah. So the myth of genius has been debunked. Don't think some people are so lucky. They just got everything, they're so lucky they have everything in place for them. No. Everybody that is considered an expert today has had to practice for at least 10,000 hours.
Oh, yeah.
So my question to you before you give up is this. How long have you been doing this? How many hours of practice have you put in?
Oh, my gosh.
Who told you have the right to give up yet? You don't. You're just starting. Give yourself time. Okay, give yourself time till you can build and get good at what you're doing. So it's not about perfection. It's about starting and growing whatever you're doing.
I agree. And I would add to that too, like letting yourself play, right? The perfectionism piece you just hit on really holds people back from getting started. So just think of it as like playing, just explore. And you can start with, how actually we first started was doing some freelancing on Upwork, right? Just like think about what skills you have, whether if you know another language, you can do translating, just any skill you have currently, something from your day job or whatever, that think about how you can translate it online and just start playing and see what it feels like, and just see where it takes you. Like that's what led us to Immigrant Finance. I started with reviewing cover letters on Upwork. That's how.
Wow.
and writing resumes, and it was just one thing led to another. And like something else I'd recommend too is always putting yourself outside your comfort zone. So like constantly taking steps where you feel a little bit uncomfortable. And there's a difference between like bad fear, the kind of fear in your stomach where you have a bad feeling in the pit of your stomach, like something's wrong. There's a difference between that and being scared, excited, where you're excited and nervous because it's outside your comfort zone and you feel like you're going to throw up, but you're like smiling. Like, so try to distinguish it. If it's the second one, keep doing it. Like, just keep following whatever makes you scared. Even right now, I told you this is one of the first times I'm doing live on Instagram, and I identify it's something I'm not comfortable with, and so I want to start doing it more because it makes me nervous. And I did the same thing with starting a podcast. Like, every single thing I've done to grow an online business has been just doing what makes me scared and like following it. So I would really encourage people. That's a way, if you're going out your comfort zone, it means you're growing. And even if it's not successful, you're going to learn. Like we talked about earlier, the failures are some of the most important lessons, better than you can get from going to some business school. And so just always be pushing yourself, and it will lead you. If you keep staying in that place and taking reasonable risks, like you will be growing and creating something.
So true. Mm-hmm. I agree 100%.
Has that been your experience too? Like doing,
yeah. 100%. I just realized that you never create anything of value if you stay in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Because nature abhors. That's why if, for example, there's nothing wrong with my hand, but if I decided to stay in one position, I keep the hand in one position, if it's resting on a chair for 1, 2, 3 hours, it's going to go numb. And if you do it for 2 months, 3 months, it's going to go dry. Yeah. Blood is going to dry out, and the hands are going to become useless. Because nature abhors stagnation.
Mm-hmm.
Naturally things are supposed to grow. Anything that is not growing is probably dying.
Yeah.
So as ourselves, that's why my father used to say something to us back in the day when we were young. If you won a dictation competition, spelling competition 2 months ago, and you remember when I won 2 months ago, he's like, who cares about 2 months ago? How are you doing now? So his idea was, who cares about what happened? It's time for you to grow.
Yeah.
And it's something that really stayed with me, because it's so easy to celebrate what you accomplished in the past and get comfortable in that place. Like, oh, well, I just got here and I'm good. But nature, you cannot do anything different. You cannot make any difference if you're insisting on staying where you are at. You must push yourself.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable, but you can't make a difference in your comfort zone. It just doesn't happen. There's this book I read, and it's a weird book. The guy curses a lot, but I love it. I must have read that book at least 15 times.
What book?
In this year alone. Anytime I'm challenged, anytime whatever is challenged, area I feel challenged, like I'm not pushing hard enough, I'll go read it. It's Relentless. That's the name.
Oh, Relentless?
And Relentless by Tim Grover.
Okay.
Relentless by Tim Grover. Everybody go find that book. He said something that really, really changed my life. I always taught people, do what you're passionate about. Do what you enjoy doing, what you love doing. Tim Grover he took that out of my mind, not to say don't do what you love doing, but he said something. He was a trainer to Michael Jordan, Dwayne Wade, Kobe Bryant, and he said the people that excel in life, they don't do what they love doing. He said doing what you love doing is for amateurs. That for those who are going to the excellent way, people are going the extra mile. He called them cleaners. He said that the people that whatever is required, they are ready to do it. Whatever the price. And he talked so much about the training that Michael Jordan got for him to be the all-time best. Nobody has beat Jordan's record. And it occurred to me that I don't care what you're doing. If you're going to make a mark, if you're going to leave a mark, he talks about Tiger Woods, the kind of training he got. a lot of those people in the sports area. So even though you talk about sports arena, it taught me in life and in business that I can do anything. I need to just set my heart to it and determine to deliver. Before I was so good at something, I say, oh, maybe it's just not my skill, it's not my specialty. Now, if I decide to do something, if it's challenging, I just go and listen to Relentless. I'm like, no, I'm going to get this thing done. And it has, that's why I say the human mind is beyond, we don't understand how much we are capable of yet until we push ourselves and we strive to do it. I encourage everybody here, go look for Relentless. I found it on Audible and I read it once and then I knew it was something I used to go over and over. So I found it on Audible. It's just mind-blowing. It's good, it's okay. There are people who are okay to be average in life. They're just okay to be comfortable. The book is not for you. But if you're thinking that there's so much to be done, and for me to get my A game on, for me to do my best work, I have to step out of my comfort zone. I say reading that book, it makes me lose sleep. I don't get tired anymore. Like, who is getting tired when I have work to do? It just puts such a fire in my bones, the fact that there are different people in life. He said there are cleaners, there are finishers, and there's another level. But his point was everybody in the MBA is successful. But there are 3 levels of success. The question is, which one do you belong? Where are you at?
Wow.
And you can do any one, but it's just your choice. It's such a powerful book. I just listen to it like the Bible, and it's funny because the guy curses so much. But his book is, it taught me. It's one of the books that has really, and I read a lot. I'm a voracious reader, but it's one of the books that has really changed my life, and it's still changing my life. Unfortunately, I can't recommend it to my children yet because they're young, but I love the book. It really gives you, it really pushes you, makes you to understand that you really don't have limitations. You are the one placing limitations yourself. Okay, Shari is asking the name of the book. It's Relentless. Relentless by Tim Grover. I'm going to type the name of the book in.
Perhaps I'll read it. It's reminding me, what you're saying, it reminded me of something I heard from a mentor I follow this week that was really interesting. She was talking about how there's this whole idea with like the self-help and self-care that we, if we're having a bad day or, having insecurities and stuff, like we have to give ourselves self-care and take a day off, right? And go watch Netflix for a day, whatever. And she took this position where she's like, no, that's actually your ego. And like, if you do that, you're letting your ego control things instead of your sole purpose. And she talked about how, like, there's a difference when you're sick. If you're really sick, like, yeah, you can't work and take actions and you have to rest. But otherwise, if it's just like, oh, this excuse of self-care, it can be an excuse, and it can be actually a tool to avoid your purpose and self-sabotage, right? And so I was thinking that when you're speaking about that with this example, and also you're saying this idea of how if you're not growing, you're dying. It's so true, because we think of it as like, oh, if we don't grow, we'll just stay safe, right? We'll just stay status quo. But there's no such thing. There's no such thing as staying status quo or safe. You're either growing or you're dying, right? And there's nothing in between. And it brings me back to what we were talking about with the digital age and online business, because so many of us are afraid to do that because we want to be safe in a 9-to-5 job. Our brains are hardwired. Yeah, our brains are hardwired in evolution, our reptilian brains, to seek security and safety. And we have this idea that a 9-to-5 job is security and safety, but we saw in the past year in the pandemic that that's not true, that 9-to-5 jobs were getting cut left and right. And if anything, people who had other sources of income, people who knew how to generate income on their own and not rely on a single employer for their livelihood, were more safe. So I would encourage you all listening to think about how actually it's more safe to start a business than be an employee, right? And that's particularly true with immigrants. If you are in between statuses, or you don't have status, or you lost your status, there's nothing illegal with having a business. You don't need a work permit to have your own business. You need a work permit to work for someone else and be an employee. But isn't it interesting how the immigration laws are written, where there's nothing saying immigrants can't start businesses? As you were saying, like with the tax system and everything, like the entire financial system in the U.S. is designed to promote small business. There's like nothing getting in the way, right? Refreshing perspective. Someone saying, because I've taken those self-care days but ended up feeling more anxious. Exactly. It was a big aha moment for me, because I've had those days where I wake up not in the right headspace. Yeah. And I'm like, let's take a day off. And that, I've been told this is self-care, but it's really just letting your ego take over.
That has been my experience too.
Yeah. And like, if we have all been put on this earth to have a purpose to help people, which I believe we each have in our own way, and sometimes it's just the journey to find what that is, then taking that day off to go feel anxious is just selfish, because there's people who need your help. There's people who need you to do what you're meant to be doing, right? Yeah. So what other questions do you all have?
I wrote a book on any other questions? I don't see any questions.
Okay.
Shannon asked about the book. Guys, if you have any questions, you can put it down as we round off so we can tackle it.
Anybody wondering about
about self-love, I was saying.
Yeah. Is anyone wondering about like how to start an online business, or how to make that shift from employee to business owner, how to jump into this digital evolution happening? Like, what questions do you all have? Because we're here to help.
I just, while we're waiting for questions, I just want to share my process for starting something new.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of, a business. I have a few questions I asked myself, and I'll share it in a couple of minutes. When I want to venture out, when I'm thinking of something to do, the first thing I realize I have to do is I need to prepare myself. I need to know, I ask myself, are you ready to put in the hard work that is necessary to create something profitable? Because remember, if it's a business, it has to be profitable.
Yeah.
So you must agree, it takes hard work. It's not, nobody's saying, you're just going to get in and work. But no, business is hard work. It's grit. And the only thing we're saying is that you have it, you can do it. So another thing I ask myself is, what is it that is what's holding me back from starting out? Especially if you don't have anything you're doing yet. Find out, look inwards. I always say to people, the answers we are looking for, if you're asking the right questions, the answers will come from you.
Yeah.
You may get answers from outside, but that's most likely not the right questions. The real, genuine, authentic questions, most of the answers come from within. Just not saying discounting the place of teachers and coaches, no. But a lot of the things stopping us are actually from within. So that's why I said, what is it that is stopping me, and how can I overcome those things? Another thing is, I just identify what I'm passionate and interested in. Because especially if it's a side hustle, somebody's making money, if it doesn't get your interest in some way, if it's something you don't have any passion about, I don't think Michael Jordan could have played golf like he played basketball. I believe if something doesn't hold an interest for you, there's going to be a limit to which you can do it well. Today I can stay up 2, 3 a.m. I don't care, because I'm so passionate about the end result of what I'm trying to do. If I was doing customer service and answering calls, I bet you I don't think I would do.
Yeah.
I'll stay about 3 a.m. Except it's paying all the bills, then I'll compel myself to, and I'll drink coffee. Many times when I tell my son, like, Mom, how come you're still up at this time? What did you take? Did you take coffee? I said, no. The coffee I took is a passion. I'm thinking of the end results. I'm launching an academy soon, and I've been working so many hours. My son is like, what happened, Mom? What did you take? Did you take coffee? How come you're awake all night? I said, I didn't take. The coffee I took is the passion.
Yeah.
I just see how I imagine the end results of the academy, and the sleep just goes away. Sometimes I'll doze off, get back, but the truth is, something you're interested in, you're more likely to thrive at it, right? Another thing you need to think about is, whatever thing your business you're going to start, you need to be able to validate it. So how do you validate the side hustle? What audience will you be? How do you most likely through reaching out to audience, right? Maybe questionnaires, asking friends, will you pay for this? Will you serve this? Yeah. So find an audience, validate it, make sure people will pay for it. Because there are some ideas that are awesome, but people will not pay for it. They may enjoy it, they may take it, but they won't pay for it. So yeah, you must validate it. Then, very importantly, determine what will set you apart from your competitors. Because I promise you, I don't care how much of a genius you are, you're not going to start anything that is new. You must have competitors. My question is, why should I buy from you rather than the other person? Like I said, it's digital age, it has its advantages, but it has its challenges. The challenges is that people can buy from anywhere. I can be here and I'll buy and I'll patronize somebody in Africa. So if you're here in the US and you're charging me $999, somebody in Africa is charging me $200 because of the currency exchange. Why should I take your $1,000 over theirs? Right. Determine what sets you apart from your competitors. It's a digital age. Being without borders and without walls has its advantages, has its challenges. And finally, define your goals. What is the end product? What's the end result? What are you seeing at the end of it? I have, under each of these, I have like 10 to 15 questions in a checklist. Maybe I'll try to share with you, Adina, so you can give out to people. It's a checklist for pursuing any passion project that I want to do. Yeah, and those are questions I just ask. Under each of them, I have like 4 to 5 other questions that I believe that if you answer those questions and you click download, it should give you a mini business plan that can help guide you to actually start something tangible.
Yeah. And we have a question from Shanu303. He's saying, I guess what's holding you back is fear of the unknown. So I wanted to speak about that for a moment, because I think it goes to what we were talking about with this idea of what is safe and what's risky. And so much of what we believe is safe is actually not. And it's the same thing with uncertainty. Actually, everything is uncertain. Like whether I wake up tomorrow is uncertain. That is unknown. Everything is. And so just starting to get a little more comfortable with that and accept it, and realize that whatever you believe is known, whether it's your 9-to-5 job, that also can be uncertain. Like we have to be prepared. Although it's scary to admit that, it's better to look at that now and face it and have a plan B and have like diversified sources of income so that you're not reliant on one source, one job for your income. And that may be embracing some of the unknown and exploring, and it can be very scary. But think about what we were talking about earlier with like, if you're scared, excited, it means you're going outside your comfort zone, and that means you're growing, and that means that you're going to be creating value, and that's the place you really want to be in. That's the place that all entrepreneurs, the best ones, are in constantly. And what really changed things for me, because I thought when in the beginning of my business journey, I thought it was just me who was freaking out and insecure all the time and having fear. And then someone told me, did you know all entrepreneurs feel that way all the time? And these, billionaire or millionaire entrepreneurs you see in the news and stuff, they seem like they have their shit together, but they're freaking out all the time. They've got imposter syndrome. They're scared about the uncertainty. Their business could fail next month. So it's just kind of realizing that that's actually the state of normal. It helps you get past it. And so don't let the fear of uncertainty hold you back from trying something new that could actually give you more security and more safety by having more options.
That's so true. The only thing I'll add to that is this. I think the problem a lot of people have when it comes to fear is they're trying to deal with fear. They're trying to stop the fear, kill the fear, deal with the fear. And I say to them, don't worry about dealing with the fear. Embrace the fear. Because what I've come to realize is if you follow the right steps towards starting a business, fear is your friend. Because if you realize that it is you're going out of your comfort zone that causes the discomfort, then what you just need to do is learn to live with the fear. It is actually a pointer to the fact that, I'm going in the right direction.
Exactly.
If you're starting out a project that you have, 100% I've got this, that's not the right project for you.
Yeah.
It's probably maybe you're supposed to be 6th grade and you're taking a 2nd grade assignment. Okay. When you start a project, you're like, oh my God, who told me I could do this? How dare I attempt this? And then that fear, that feeling for you, like, oh, how am I going to go about it? That is the perfect project for you. So don't think to deal with the fear. Embrace your fear. It's a point to the fact that now I'm stepping up. Now I'm going outside of my comfort zone. Okay. So fear can be good fear can be a pointer to the fact that you're going in the right direction. And like Adina said, everybody feels it. When they're assessing a new project, be you Elon Musk, whatever it is, everybody feels it. It's a partner of everyone that is daring to step out and to grow.
Yeah. And it's not going to be like you're scared all the time forever in your business. Like, it will always be there as hopefully you're continuing to grow. But what changes as you have more experience dealing with the fear is your rebound time. So something that would have made me freak out and have anxiety in the business 2 years ago for a week, now maybe it's just a day, or maybe it's just an hour, because it's like building a muscle. The more you flex the muscle, the stronger it gets. So don't think that it's like this terrifying thing all the time. Like, you will get stronger as a business owner as your experience builds. And part of it with the digital age and online business, part of the fear too, I want to acknowledge, is learning the technology. So I am not a coder. I do not consider myself a person who's tech savvy. But honestly, everything I've needed to know, I've been able to just look up on YouTube. And like, at first, in the beginning, it feels really overwhelming and scary, right? And like, how could I ever do this? And so stressful. And then you'll have like the first time where you felt that way, but then after like a rabbit hole of one evening on YouTube, you figure it out, or you figure out like a way that's good enough, right? And then the next time it happens, you remember that, and you're like, well, I didn't know how to create a website, but I figured out how to make this basic website. So like, maybe I can figure out the email marketing system or whatever. So the technology, it will be intimidating, but don't let it hold you back, because it's totally learnable. Most people are learning things these days on YouTube, not in schools. And so you can learn whatever you need to learn. There's way enough free resources out there. It's really just about that like commitment and showing up and moving past the fear, continuing to show up despite the fear.
That's so true, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Do we have any other questions? Before we wrap up, I may have to head to bed soon. I'm on East Coast time.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fine, but I don't want to keep you guys too long. I know you all have time commitments. So any other questions about digital age, online business, money mindset, moving past fears, getting started? And please feel free to reach out to both of us, either of us as well, if you have more questions after as things marinate.
I said I will add to my link in bio the checklist, and I'll send you a copy, Adina.
Thank you.
So if anybody asks,
great.
I can also share with them.
Wonderful. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think we've covered everything I thought to add. As long as there's no question, we answer Shani's question.
I'm glad we got into the money mindset stuff, because it, that is the stuff that holds people back from getting started, is those fears. And so just, big picture, I think to wrap up what we've been talking about is like a lot of this is making a shift in your thinking. And to bring it back to personal finance for a second, really quick, like with personal finance, so much of it in your early stages of a financial journey are about like learning to budget and paying off debt. And the mindset for that is very, very different than the mindset that's needed for starting a business and for building wealth and increasing income. And you're going to have to make a shift in the way you think about money in order to do that, because honestly, for a business to grow and be scalable and to be sustainable over time, you're going to need to invest in it too. So this whole idea from personal finance of like, don't spend one extra dollar that you have to, and like punish yourself with paying off debt, pay off. That actually is going to screw you over with business. I don't know if you agree with that. I'd love to hear your thoughts, but from what I've seen, like you have to invest in your business.
Oh, you do have to invest in your business. I mean, it's like a child. You put as a child, you don't give it milk, you don't give it food. It's going to suffer stunted growth and probably die, right? So you do need to. Personal finance is important, but it just needs to be placed in the right perspective. I don't think it's. Some people look at it like a torture chamber, like you just deny yourself and deny yourself. You could never live a happy life doing that. But it does have its place, and there's not amount of money you're making that if you don't have the discipline to go along with it, you can thrive, you can succeed. You might not even be investing in the right things too. But what I have to say with regards to finances, which we can't elaborate on, we don't have that session for that, is this. You can never make enough money to be wealthy. Like you make so much money, you just become wealthy. You can ask the richest people in the world. There's none of them that is just surviving or thriving from the monies they made from their work. Okay, you must learn to manage money. I would talk to financial advisors and all that. It's great, but I think you are your own best financial advisor. And there are key errors that people make with money that could change everything. Let me just give a quick example. If I was working, and this happened to a friend really, she had her 401k, she was changing jobs. And what happened at first was she took out $50,000 from her 401k. I just want to tell you how ignorance can play on your finances. And just from taking out $50,000, she wasn't sure, she had not gotten to the right age. So of course, first of all, there's a 10% surcharge for that right away. Yeah. And then beyond that also, that $50,000 was added to, she was earning $85,000. So that $50,000 was added to it changed her tax bracket. So it increased a lot of, so there are so many, like she lost in the end for that single decision, she lost over $40,000. Imagine what $40,000 is, So there are things that, like I said when we're talking, in North America, you need two things to succeed. One of two things, either a lot of cash or a lot of knowledge. People don't have a lot of cash, but because of what they know, they're able to navigate their way and do well. So yeah, when I think of personal finance, I think of knowing a lot, knowing enough to make the right financial decisions, not punishing myself such that, it's just so tight. I mean, I've studied the FIRE movement. I love it. There are people who spend only 50% of their income, so only 30% because they just want to retire early at all costs. So everybody will do what works for them, right? But my encouragement to you is this: be open to learn. You do want to learn, because one single mistake can cost you a lot. I mean, when she told me what happened, she didn't even know the impact. I told her the implication. I said, at the end of the tax season, this is how much you will have lost. She was flabbergasted. She was like, oh my God, I only took, and it's my money. I said, yes, but that's the way the rules have been made. Yeah. And if you don't play by the rules, you get beaten all the time. Yeah. So let's be open to learn, to listen, to understand the implication of every financial decision we make, because, I mean, the government of the United States is not joking.
That's great. Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you all so much for listening. It's been a lot of fun, and thank you for your time, Fijeh. Always a great discussion with you. We always get into the mindset, purpose, social entrepreneurship. I love it. So hopefully this is the first of many lives together. Yes.
Thank you so much, guys. Shannon, Juliana, everybody. Thank you for staying with us.
Yes, definitely. Make sure to check out Immigrants Thrive and Immigrant Finance. We both have a ton of resources that can be helpful, and hope to continue to connect with all of you. Have a great night.
All right, guys. Bye.
Bye. Connect with all of you. Have a great night. Thanks so much for listening to the Immigrant Finance Show. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't done so already, and leave us a review so we can reach more people to help. Also, did you know we started a free Facebook group for immigrant families who want to build generational wealth? We're doing free monthly trainings covering everything from investing to online business. Plus, you will be in there with a network of other inspiring members of our community. Make sure to join us at facebook.com/groups/immigrantfinance, and we'll see you there.